I found an altar with this inscription, to the unknown God. You see, they had altars and temples to Athena, to Aphrodite, to Zeus, to Poseidon, to Hades, and all the other gods and goddesses. They had monuments and temples and structures built, but they thought, with their intelligence, their Ein Sof, what if there's a God we don't know about? What if there's one we missed? And he got mad at us because we left him out. It didn't make him a big marble monument. Then we've had it. We don't want to get a God mad at us. They got power, right? This is how they thought. So they put one up to the unknown God. Here, if we don't know about you, this is yours. You know, people are the same way today, aren't they? And it's part of their superstition. They don't. Jesus said, you worship you know not what. There are people who will worship, but they don't know what. And the word worship means to give your heart. It doesn't, praise is to compliment. Worship is to give your heart. When you give your heart to know not, you know not what, there's trouble there, isn't there? Some people think, well, you know, we live in the greatest country in the world, and everything's going to be straightened out. The government's going to take care of us. They're going to watch over us. They're going to train us. They're going to medicate us. They're going to inoculate us. They're going to take care of our children. They're going to take care of us, as Bill Clinton used to say, cradle to the grave. And they keep putting their trust in a system of men. And the Word of God tells us to look up, not east, up. Look up, for your redemption draweth nigh. Come on. Our help cometh from the Lord. And we look up and we find the power of God comes down. Now, here's Paul on Mars Hill telling them they're superstitious. Telling them, okay, I'm standing right here in front of this monument to the unknown God, the one you don't know about. That word unknown is always quite interesting to me, intriguing to me. You know, I've talked to various people working at the University of Wisconsin for 10 years. I used to talk to these super intelligent people that believed we got here from monkeys. And you know, they said, I was talking to Richard Johnston one time, a graduate student. He had gotten his master's degree. And I was talking to him one time, and he was telling me about all of these different cavemen, you know, and there's one place on there where there's a gap. And he said, well, that's because that's the missing link. See? Did you ever hear you've heard of the missing link? I said, Richard, there's really something you need to understand about the missing link. And he said, what's that? I said, it's missing. These missing links are all missing. They're not there. Then he was talking to me about life on other planets. He said, you know, not life as we know it. And I said, now think about that, Richard. Explain to me life as we don't know it. Would you do that for me? See, they like to use those words. But in this case, he was looking at their superstition and saying, you're admitting you don't know. This is a monument to an unknown. Whom therefore ye ignorantly worship. You ignorantly give your heart to something you don't even know. How can you do it? So he said, him declare I unto you. Now you're going to know him. Now you're not going to have any excuse anymore. I'm going to tell you about the only one you don't know about, and he's the only one there is. All these monuments, all these temples, all of this big religious show you've got is absolutely worthless. It's all a big build-up from hell. I'm going to tell you about the one who made all things, and you don't know him. And you admitted it with a monument. He says in verse 24, God that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is Lord of heaven and earth. Now they're thinking, I thought that was Zeus. Oh no. Dwelleth not in temples made with hands. God doesn't live in a temple made with hands. God lives in a temple. But the temple that he lives in are his people. You and I. Lively stones, built up in habitation unto the Lord. In the Old Testament, he had a temple for his people. In the New Testament, he has his people for a temple. Quite a thought, huh? It amazes me. But he dwelleth not in temples made with hands, neither is worshipped with men's hands, as though he needed anything. Now we worship him with our hands, but he doesn't need that. God could get along very well without you and I. We need him. He doesn't need us. There are people strutting around out there thinking, God needs me. Like that Pharisee, remember? Pharisee and the Republican came in. Well, for as far as I know, he could have been a Democrat. But anyway, they both came in, and the Pharisee started pouring out his resume to God. Oh, I fast twice a week. I pay my tithe. I do this. I do all these things. And he was bragging on himself. He was a legend in his own mind. There's a few of them running around out there too. Did you ever see some of these televangelists? Boy, they think there's something. And you know, the publican came in, and he hung his head. He couldn't even look up. He smote his breast. He said, God, have mercy on me, a poor, miserable sinner. Jesus said, that's the man that went away justified, not the Pharisee. There's one thing God hates, it's a proud look. Read about it in Proverbs chapter 6. There are 6 things the Lord hates and 7 that are an abomination unto him. So here is Paul telling them that God doesn't need worship. He'll bless it, he'll respond to it, but he doesn't depend on it. We need the Lord. Seeing he giveth to all life and breath and all things. He is the source. We're the recipient of his blessings. And verse 26 says, he's still preaching there at Mars Hill, and hath made of one blood all nations of men, for to dwell on all the face of the earth. One blood. Everybody came from one blood. Not from monkeys. We didn't evolve. The races obviously mutated off one from another, and different people, different kinds of people, but came forth, but we started as one blood. That's what it says here. Okay? Hath made from one blood all nations of men, for to dwell on all the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed and the bounds of their habitation. God set boundaries. How did he do it? Well, he put up the language barrier at the Tower of Babel, remember? It wasn't long and they were all speaking different languages. They got up to do another day's work. It was like any other day as far as they were concerned. The sun came up, going to build the tower a little bigger. Got together, and one man walked up and said, Guten Morgen. The other one said, Ohio gozaimasu. Huh? What are you talking about? Which of course was Japanese and German. But anyway, they couldn't understand each other. All these different languages came out, and they separated off into their little groups, and God set bounds there. They lived with people they could understand. He separated them. Then he cracked the world apart because it was all one big landmass, and he broke it apart into various continents. So you had what was called a continental drift. And if you take a flat map of the world, take a globe, you've seen those in school, haven't you? Where they take a globe and flatten it out. Looks like somebody peeled an orange apart and lay it flat. So that's actually called a stereographic projection, which is a map of a sphere projected on a tangent plane with one point diametrically opposite to the point of tangency.